Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am finally posting a festive video that I had planned for a long while, but in all honesty it took us longer than usual to actually get a tree because we always get a real tree. And the first weekend in December, when we would usually get one, I was not very well. I don't think the kids were very well either, so we were more into just lying still on the sofa than actually like trekking out to get a tree. So I only put it up maybe like 4 days ago, and I'd been making decorations over the last few weeks for the tree because I was thinking I wanted to go down a different route this year, something that was more in keeping with the decor that I've been leaning into recently. So I wanted it to be a little bit more vintage vibes, something a little bit more classic. I don't want to say traditional because I'm not sure that that is the right word, but perhaps leaning a nod in that direction. I feel like I'm quite excited about like Victorian Christmas decorations, and I just wanted things with a little bit more character than I'd used in the past. I've done a lot of quite neutral, trend-led Christmas trees, and yeah, they were nice, but I just don't feel like they're the kind of decorations that you want to keep for years and years and years. And I wanted to have those kinds of decorations. Yeah, just something that we could use year on year on year. And I also wanted to thrift as much as I could and DIY as much as I could. So nearly all the decorations on the tree this year are new, and I've kind of kept them fairly simple in terms of like making them. There's some painting involved, but all in all, they're not too tricky to recreate. And I realise the likelihood this year is that you have already put your tree up, so I hope it provides some inspiration, if not for this year, then for next year, or even just creating some decorations that you could gift people. Because I don't know, I think that's quite a nice idea if you give someone Christmas tree decorations that then they can get out each year. So let's start at the beginning and I will show you some of the things that I made. So here are some of the things that I picked up in advance, and I found these brown decorations on eBay and I just really liked the shape of them. I liked that sort of vintage look, and some of them are shiny, some of them are matte, and I just could imagine painting stripes on them would look really nice. And then I also just got these sort of standard paper mache baubles and these stars as well, like as a blank canvas to do some things on. So I started with the brown decorations and I just pulled the little lid cap thing at the top up just slightly so I could reach all the way up, and I mixed up some of this kind of dusky pink paint because I just thought it would look nice with the brown. I don't know why, it was just calling to me, that colour combination. And I think for this I just used acrylic paint because I wanted a nice solid colour, and just painted with a small brush lines going all the way down and just curving out so that it fitted the shape. And then I did the same on the matte ones as well, but it just gave a slightly different look, which was nice. I liked the variation, but just very, very simple to do. And actually painting onto this with acrylic paint was pretty easy, and you can always go back over the lines if you need to fill any bits in or neaten anything up afterwards. Now onto the stars, and to jazz these up a bit I used this really chunky glitter. One was slightly more chunky than the other, and I just wanted to have that nice combination to add some depth to the sparkle. And one step that I did before starting this, which I did off camera, was that I taped off the cords on these stars so I didn't get any paint on them, and then I painted each one with a metallic paint that I will link in the description box down below. But it's a really nice kind of almost aged brass colour, which I'm quite partial to. So I did that first, and then I just used some Mod Podge on the ridges of the star, just as outline of glue, and then I added the finer glitter, and then also added the really chunky one over the top. And once I'd done one side of all of them, I left them to dry, and then once dry, just did the other side. Very, very easy, but the sparkle just makes it super Christmassy. Look at that, really festive. Now, it wouldn't be a DIY project for me without polymer clay involved. So here I've got some soft Fimo in white, and I just rolled it out to about 5 mil kind of thickness, not too thick, but you don't want it so thin that it's going to break when you use a cutter. And I actually bought this goose cutter, very niche, off eBay, and then cut out a load of geese shapes and then kept on rolling the excess out again so that I could get lots and lots of them. And then when I was finished, I just lined them up on a tray. Then I actually used some pliers to create the holes for the ribbon to go in. That just created a really nice neat hole, so I did that in the kind of backs / the wings of each goose. And then for the wings, I cut out a template from cardboard of a wing shape that was going to fit all of them, and then I just used scraps of old material. These were actually samples, like linen samples, and just cut out the wings for the birds. I did 2 different types of stripes, and then I also had some embroidered fabric just to add a little bit of interest. And then before actually sticking the wings on, I painted the beaks and the legs and feet just using some porcelain paint, and I mixed up this orange colour, just painted the beak on either side, and then also just like rough leg and webbed feet. You don't need to be too detailed about this, it's just to kind of give the idea. And then I added some details. So once I'd stuck on the wings just using some super glue, and I also added bows around the necks of the geese, I thought it would be nice if they just had a little eye and then some feather details. And so I used this metallic brush lettering pen, but any kind of metallic pen that goes on different surfaces would be totally fine. So I got these baubles in a set, and they came with half of them shiny and half of them matte. And I just thought that they were the perfect base to paint on. So using some porcelain paints that I already had, but you can buy these, I will link them in the description box below. I just wanted to paint some wreaths and some kind of foliage with bows, and then also wanted to do a more kind of silent night scene, whilst you can get really detailed if you want to. The actual bare bones of this, so doing these kind of fir foliage branches, it's just so easy, and it's really nice the way that the paint goes on, and so you're going to get kind of gradient effect, which makes it look a little bit 3D. So like here, doing this wreath, worked my way around, and then I went back with a darker green over the top once it had dried out a little bit, and it just looks really effective, and it's very simple. You don't have to be an excellent painter to do that. On these ones, I also added in some bells, just using some of that gold paint that I talked about before, which again will be linked in the description box. But yeah, just some general bell shapes. It makes it so much easier if you have a nice fine brush for doing this. And in between each stage, I just let it dry, which doesn't take very long, and you can go back in adding some shadow, and also you can use a white porcelain pen or some kind of white multi-purpose pen as well to just pick out the highlights in what you're doing. And I think adding the light and the dark, the shadow and the highlights, just makes it look a little bit more vintage in a sense, more like a little painted scene. You have to wait a little bit because obviously there's 2 sides for each bauble that you can do, so that as it kind of twists and turns on the tree, you're not getting just a blank bauble at any point. But once you've done the same design on both sides, you can add other details. So I did little dots to make the wreaths look kind of twinkly and Christmassy. And then here you can see I've mixed a deep burgundy colour, and I'm just creating a bow shape at the top of my wreaths. And I also did this on the ones with bells on too, so that it looks a little bit more decorative. Once again, using a fine brush. And if you're using a fine brush, it's really not too tricky. It's basically just creating some bending lines really. And you could equally do this sort of thing with the porcelain paint pens, like the Posco pens and stuff, but I just didn't find the colours that I wanted, so I mixed my own. And then here is just like a moon and star design, just to add a bit of variation. I did these on the matte baubles, and I did it using the gold paint that I talked about before, twice already. And then I just, once that was dry, added in some details as before, so some darker gold, mixed a bit of black in with that paint, and did some shadows, and then some little twinkly stars. And then after that was dry, I once again went in with the white pen and just added in some highlights. I wanted to try my hand at some decoupage, so I basically sourced a bunch of different images from Google and various different places where you could get free downloads, but I collected all the ones that I liked, and I will actually link to a download for you to be able to print this out if you'd like. I had to cut all of them out then, which I have to say was like not the funnest bit. Very, very fiddly, but I did it. And then these are the paper mache baubles that I showed at the beginning, and I've already gone over them with a kind of dusty blue coat of paint. And then I just used Mod Podge to glue all of these different images on the baubles, going around, overlapping the different pictures, just so I could get like a nice coverage overall, and also on the bottom as well, mixing the greens with like the little cherubs. There was no real rhyme or reason, like no particular method. I just was covering each bauble, seeing how they looked, seeing if there were gaps that I needed to fill. Some of the bigger pieces I put glue on them and then kind of worked out from the center, continuing to press them down, so you might end up with some folds, but all in all it will be fairly even and all stuck down to the bauble. And then at the end you just go over the whole thing with a coat of Mod Podge, just to seal the whole design, to make sure that everything's stuck down well. You could equally do that with the shinier version of the Mod Podge if that's more the vibe that you're going for. So here are all the decorations laid out. I actually found these on eBay. They are literally a memory from my childhood, but I managed to find them just in cream rather than multicolored. And then these are the decoupage baubles that I did, which actually came out really nicely. And I wasn't 100% sure about the blue, but I think it adds a nice other color into the mix. And then here is a basket full of goodies. This is one of the painted baubles that I did with bells on. And then I've got the geese, which I just love. There's one kind, and then here's another one with like a green bow and a striped wing. I just think they're so cute. And then we've got more of the painted baubles. This is one with a wreath on it, which again, those leaves are actually really easy to create with the porcelain paint. And then my moon and little twinkly stars. And then in here we've got one of the striped baubles that I did at the beginning, and I added a velvet brown ribbon to go with it because I thought that worked really nicely. And then I found these on Vinted, really nice vintage looking decorations. I'm not sure if they actually are, but... And then these are my faves. I actually found these in a garden centre, like crushed green velvet with the sparkle at the top, like little jazzy pears. I just could not resist buying them. And then here are the stars that I made with the sequins and glitter on. And I actually just added a coat of clear spray sealer over the top, just so that all of the glitter wasn't just coming off everywhere. So that is our Christmas tree for this year. I hope you like it. I hope maybe you've been inspired by some of those decorations that you could make yourself and give your own Christmas tree some vintage inspired vibes. I'm really glad that we actually have the living room looking cozy and Christmassy now, because that is one thing I particularly like about this time of year, is just lighting lots of candles, having twinkly lights, just wrapping up in blankets. I'm all about that life. Nick always laughs because I'm just so into like ambient lighting, particularly. Like I never really like having the main light on in any room. I either want candles lit or I want lamps or whatever. So this is my time. It's my time to shine very dimly and atmospherically. When we decorate our tree, I have to say I always let the kids go a bit crazy first, so they can put the decorations, aside from the breakable ones, up how they want it, and then once they're in bed I rearrange everything so there's some kind of order and there aren't 5 decorations on the same branch, because that ain't happening. So in case you're wondering the first time around what our Christmas tree looked like after the kids had been let loose, I'm going to insert a clip here. Let me know in the comments who you think did it better. I mean, they've gone down a different kind of route, a bit sort of abstract and asymmetric, which may be more to your taste, so I won't be offended. Let me know. And also I'd love to know in the comments what your kind of Christmas tree or Christmas decoration style is. Is it more modern, more kind of simplistic? Is it full on traditional? Do you embrace like jewel tones? Is your Christmas tree just a million different homemade decorations from your children? Because actually I see parents do that and I'm like, that actually looks quite good. How does it look good? Because I don't feel like, maybe my kids just aren't old enough yet. And as usual, if you like my videos, I mean DIY projects, lots of home decor and room makeovers, then please do subscribe. It would be lovely to have you here. It really does mean a lot when anybody subscribes to this little old channel that's less than a year old. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. And you can also follow me on Instagram at The Lovely Drawer. And I just share lots more kind of behind the scenes, bits and pieces of projects in mid-flow, that kind of thing, general life stuff. So if you want to get more of a window into that, then do follow me on Instagram. And I will see you in the next video. And I'm not going to say what it is yet because I'm not sure what video it will be yet, but it will be in the new year. So Merry Christmas. I hope you have a lovely time off, whether you're with family or whatever you're doing. Have a good one. I will see you soon. Bye.